Hello and welcome to my video, where I'm going to show you how I organise my craft supplies. I'll be sharing some tips and tricks and plenty of methods that have worked for me over the years. In my last video, I showed you how I decorated some box files, some mini drawers and a ribbon holder, and these of course all feature in my organisation system. The ribbon holder holds ribbon but also tape. The mini drawers hold small items like needles, threads and clips. And the box files are the most important because they hold A4 paper and card, acetate, foam, knitting patterns and all kinds of things. One thing I would definitely recommend is that before you organise your craft supplies, you should find out what kind of organiser you are. I've left a video in the description box that really helped me, and I realised that I'm a visual organiser. I used to always leave out items and materials for projects and half-finished projects because they acted as a reminder. If I put them away, I'd forget all about them and never do them. So I end up with all these reminders on my table and no clear surfaces left. It's just all clutter. So basically, I need to be able to see what I own in order to be able to realise and be reminded that these things actually exist and I own them. So I basically need storage where I can see the supplies inside. This includes shallow drawers and containers, clear boxes, boxes with clear windows, open trolleys, glass cabinets, and anything similar. Before I knew this, I used to store all of my fabric in this ottoman and all of my yarn in very tall buckets. And both of those storage methods really didn't work for me. In order to be able to see what fabric I had at the bottom of the ottoman, I had to take everything out, and same for the yarn. And that's just not going to work. And that brings me to my first recommendation, which is the IKEA Rudster. As you can see, this is where I store my yarn. It has glass on 3 sides, so I can pretty much see all the yarn that I own without even opening the door. With regards to fabric storage, I just use this metal cabinet. It's a bit overstuffed at the moment, but I try to have the edge of every piece of fabric on show so that I can see what I have and where. Another thing I've made sure to do is have all of the yarn in one place and all of the fabric in one place. Before, my yarn and fabric was scattered all across the room, and now it's a lot easier to find what I need. Here you can see more examples of the kind of container that work well for me. Clear boxes and boxes with clear windows. I also try to categorise everything, so in the top left box, for instance, is all my craft kits, and in the top right box is anything to do with felting. At some point I'll probably add some labels to these as well. Another IKEA recommendation is the Alex, which I'm sure you've seen in many a craft room. The advantage of the Alex is that the drawers are shallow, so it's very easy to see straight away what you've got when you open the drawer. I also categorise what's in each drawer, so for instance I keep all of my wire together, all of my paint and art supplies together, and all of my polymer clay together. There's also the IKEA Kallax, which is also very handy, and you can see here more clear boxes. If you have cupboards like mine, then just make sure that when you open the door, you can see exactly what you have straight away. One space you might not be using is the space behind your door, and I found this organiser particularly handy for storing awkwardly shaped items. As you can see, this storage solution meets all of my visual organiser needs because it has clear pouches as well as open boxes with windows at the front. You might notice that I've sewn on a piece of dowel at the back on each side, and this is simply to keep the organiser nice and upright, because I found that it tends to bow out away from the door, so that's just something to keep in mind. Right, so now I'm going to show you how I organise my knitting needles, sewing needles and crochet hooks. The first thing that I find handy is just to keep a range of needles on a piece of felt, like so. This just keeps a range of needle types within easy reach, which is very handy if you've just got a small sewing job to do. And as for storing the rest of my hand sewing needles, plus knitting needles and crochet hooks, I use these flexible PVC ring binders in A5 size, plus some transparent zipper pouches. I always struggled to store these kind of items, and I just found this to be a very good solution. As you can see, I've got all kinds of things in here, including knitting needles and crochet hooks, cables for circular needles, knitting gadgets and double-pointed needles. You'll also see that I've used my Dymo label printer to add a label to many of the pouches. These labels just give important information like the diameters of the needles inside and also the lengths of the cables. This is the label printer that I used, and I've actually owned this since I was about 11. And now I'm just going to show you how I organise things within the pouches if they're quite small. So here I have some sewing needles inside a pouch, and what I want to prevent is them all stacking up and not looking neat. So what I'm going to do is divide them into different sections of the same pouch. To do this, measure out how big you want the sections to be, and then make a line of small holes between these sections. I spaced the holes about 1 centimetre apart, and I made sure I had an odd number of holes in each line. If, like me, you're going to use yarn to sew into these holes, you'll then need to use your awl to make the holes bigger. I then threaded some DK yarn onto a yarn needle and tucked this yarn needle into and out of the holes from bottom to top. I then did the same thing in the opposite direction. Then cut these yarn tails quite short, like so, and glue these yarn tails into place. As you can see, this keeps the needle packets organised and neat. In terms of storing sewing machine needles, I find that a clear CD case is perfect. As you can see, they fit neatly inside and you can see exactly what you've got. And lastly, one of my favourite storage solutions is this clear plastic carry case for nail polishes. It's designed to carry 48 nail polishes, but as you can see, I use it to carry embroidery floss and accessories on one side, and bobbins and sewing threads on the other. And again, I just love the fact that you can see exactly what you have straight away. I thought this was an absolute bargain because it was £12 on eBay. And that's it. I really hope this video gave you some good ideas, and thank you very much for watching.